up, everybody? Welcome to Dharma Time, or Dope and Dharma, and this is the Dharma Time segment. I, of course, am Dharma, and this would be Dope. What's up, man?
Dope.
Yeah, right. That's short for I am the Dharma Guy. He is the Dope Doctor, and as always, we are coming to you live on Facebook.com/WPSN99. Unless you were listening to this at a later time or date, then you didn't get the chance to see us live, and you didn't get a chance to see this wonderful Jerry Garcia inspired tie-dye shirt that my daughter made me that I told her I would wear. It's actually pretty comfortable. I can't lie. But she's on this little tie-dye kick where she just run around tie-dye and everything, and she wanted to make me a shirt, and so I said, sure, go for it. Didn't turn out half bad. It's okay. I'm not a big tie-dye guy, I guess, but whatever. It's a cool house shirt. So
You're triggering me.
Uh-oh, was that bring back memories or something of the '60s? Um, Isn't that when it was big? It was big when in the '60s, right? Isn't that where tie-dye was like with the hippies and stuff?
Probably more 70s, late 60s, early 70s. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tom would like this shirt. I'm assuming he seems like the
Oh
hippie guy.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
he's something tells me he's got a tie-dye something in his closet somewhere. I bet.
Something tells me he still has that sports coat.
Oh gosh. Anyways, so welcome everybody. Today for us live. Today's Tuesday, February something or other, or no March. We're in, oh my gosh,
Oh,
we're already in
martes,
March.
marzo
Can't believe we're
dos.
already in March,
2000.
man. Things
Thank
are
you.
going by so quickly. Aren't we? We're coming up to the anniversary for the COVID lockdown, right? Didn't the lockdown happen in March of last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're coming up to a year, and yet here we are still. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think all those people who thought 2021 was just gonna be a magical year, you should go back and watch our show that we did when we said 2021 isn't the magical cure-all, because it still feels pretty similar to what we've been going through for the last year. And that's a judgment call I'm making. You see how I did that? So today, as
Don't
I said
worry,
at the
Saint.
top,
Don't worry, Saint Biden is here. He's going to save us all.
yeah,
Saint Biden and Saint Fauci.
the pillar of perfection. Didn't they say that about Cuomo too? And boy, did they turn on him so quick.
Saint Cuomo too. No,
Yeah,
Saint Cuomo too. Saint Cuomo, Saint Fauci, and Saint Biden.
yeah. Anyways, I digress. Well, this is not our political show. Our political show will be on
John
Friday.
just texted me. John just texted me. I
Uh
wonder if he's...
oh. Maybe he's watching. He likes your tie dye. But yes, our political show, We the Middle, will be on Friday after the Couch Live. So be sure to tune in on Friday if you're doing it live at was it 1 o'clock on WPSN 99. That's Facebook.com/WPSN99, and we will discuss all of our political views. Some you agree with, some you don't. But hey, it's just our honest opinion. Um, all right, so let's wrap up our judgment stuff, man. So we talked
Yes.
about we'll go in and wrap all this up as we progress through the show. But our first episode, for those of you who didn't watch it, was about humor and how we kind of judge what is or isn't funny, and then we judge who finds what funny. Second one was talking about living up to our reality checks, right? So things that we don't necessarily like, but we need to hear, type of thing. And then the third one, which was last week, we talked about what's right, or excuse me, what's wrong, meaning setting these unrealistic expectations or these ideals that people need to live up to. And then, of course, today we're going to wrap all that up, and we're also going to talk about the main theme today is not all judgment is bad, right? I hear that a lot. I hear, oh, I don't. How many? They can't see it. But raise your hand, everybody. Or how often have you heard in your life from somebody the phrase or the comment, "Oh, I don't judge." You
Oh,
ever heard that? I hear that at least 3, 4 times a day from, be it things I read on Facebook or whatever, or people talking. That utters, it comes out of people's mouth constantly. I don't judge, and I call bullshit. Right? Like that's the thing is we think judgment, we automatically think harsh, negative criticism, or we think, you know, you completely tossing away somebody for one instance, regardless of what they've done their whole lives. That's typically where our mind goes. But, like, I'm a happily married man. I would not have met that woman had I not judged her to be somebody I think could fit in my life. You and we've judged each other at some point or another to say, hey, I think that person, aligns with my goals, and I think we could do things together. Your dog, right? Like, you judge that to be the dog that you think would be a good fit in your family. Like, those are all judgments. We do them every single day. If I were to tell you hey, you should, strip down naked and run down the street, you would probably judge that. Most of you, hopefully, would judge that to be a not a good thing to do. That's a judgment call. for most of you, that'd be a good judgment call not to do those types of things. Um, but we, for whatever reason, negativity has gotten the it's the shining star of judgment, and we all like to say we don't judge. We all kid ourselves with this idea that we don't judge, and we do every day, and not always positive. Sometimes we do judge negative. Sometimes I'll see something and say, hey, you know what? I don't want that in my life. If there's a little girl that my younger daughter, is friends with, and this little girl is just really mean and kind of just nasty to her sometimes. And I personally judge her to not be somebody that I think should be in my daughter's life as a friend. I don't tell her who she can and can't be friends with, but I look at how it makes her feel sometimes when she gets off the phone with her and how they interact, and I say, you know what, maybe that's just not a good friend for you. That's a judgment, and I feel right in that judgment. My point is, we all judge. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but judgment is a part of our makeup. That's how we, as a species, have survived for all these centuries that we survived. And if you walk around thinking you don't judge, I think you're part of the problem. Because if you walk around with this idea that you don't judge, you are then somehow judging yourself to be better than everybody else. And not only is judging yourself better than everybody else wrong, but you're also delirious. You're not delirious, delusional in thinking that you don't judge. In other words, you don't know yourself as well as you think you do then if you seriously believe that you do not judge. And so it's like a double whammy there for you. Now, I think the judgment happens, but I think what the dope doctor and I are more concerned with is the intent behind the judgment, right? Are you judging for the sake of criticizing and ridiculing and hurting somebody? Or are you judging something based upon the benefit of yourself and everybody else around you? You know, like, where's your intent coming from? And I think that's the crux of judgment, right? What do you think?
I think judgment has gotten judged.
Exactly.
We do. We like you said. I mean, it has become the new thing to judge is judgment, right? So the problem with it is that we all look at it out of whatever our own issues are, right? So like liars, when they hear other people speak, they think that they're lying because they lie.
Right.
Cheaters think everybody cheats because they cheat, that kind of thing. So people that are racist or see things from a biased perspective think everybody's racist and biased because that's the way they see it. That's the only reason you see the way that things that you do is because you carry those traits. Now, you can give yourself a pass and act like, no, I'm not the one. I'm saying that because it's true out there. I'm saying that because they do it. No, you're saying it because you do it. And so take ownership of it and understand that some of it is like a protective tool. There's defense mechanisms and there's some protection to this world because all of us come from a long line of survivors, right? Because I think everyone can probably say that their ancestors probably did some pretty shady shit to be alive today. Every single one of them. Now just because it didn't happen in the last 1,000 years doesn't mean it didn't happen in the previous 2 to 5,000 years. Because if you're still alive today, somebody judged a lot of stuff to get here. That's too hot, that's too cold, that's too high, that's too dangerous. I'm not going to go there right now. I'll wait right here. You go right ahead. You go first. You know what I mean?
So, I'll wait for you.
I'll wait. But there's a lot of judgment to get you to where you're at, and I think all too often when we talk about judgment, we try to encompass all of it and just to make it one blanket big no, and we try to just pinpoint it to just be about what matters to us. So if racial issues matter to you, then you try to pinpoint it about that. If you're a person that has been insecure about your looks, then you pinpoint it about that. Oh, you should not judge fat, skinny, tall, short. No, man. I mean, look, reality is reality. We talked about it on a previous Dharma Time and part of this whole judgment series. So reality is reality. There's nothing wrong with reality. What's wrong with it is exactly like what you said, the intent of the individual that's saying it, number one, and you processing the issues that make you so damn sensitive to begin with, because that you have control over. And that's why I love the Serenity Prayer so much. I know we use it in Addiction and Recovery Trinity, but the Serenity Prayer really is a kind of prayer that can just help you deal with life in general. And we should use it. Now, I mean, this world, 2021, really needs a Serenity Prayer. Control the things that you can control. That's it. If it's not in your control, let it go. Let it go. I mean, they made a whole movie about Let It Go, right? Although my kid's favorite songs is "You're a Fixer-Upper," because I'm a fixer-upper. But let it go. You know what I mean? So we got to understand that judgment has allowed us to survive this long. Judgment has allowed us to make really good decisions in really dangerous situations. And we've also had a lot of luck. So I think you need to throw luck in the mix.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important too to understand, and it's interesting because we seem to be really good at this as a collective society in certain instances, but not so much in others. And this idea that whatever my judgment is
Yeah.
it. Like that's the truth, right? Like for
Yeah.
instance, a very trivial and anecdotal example. I deem it is too hot here. In my opinion, it's too hot. It's hot. It's Florida. Anything above 70, and I'm hot, right? Um,
Right.
but I'm also aware that there's millions of other people who are not the same, and so my judgment of it's too hot is not the truth, right? It's not factual.
Right.
It's my
Right.
judgment, and so I
Right.
don't go around and try to ridicule others and punish them or whatever because they're okay with the heat. I understand that there's a difference.
Well,
Um,
well, I've stayed in the same hotel room as you. You try to punish others.
man,
You
that's what blankets are for,
try.
bro. But yeah, so I think that we're not that we're good. We need practice, I think, at that, right? And understanding that whatever our judgment is coming from our own unique perspective, and it's not the overarching truth for everybody. And I think
Yeah.
that we need to kind of. I'm disappointed that we don't teach that more readily to our youth, or even our adults for that matter. But it'd be
Yeah.
easier to start kids. Like I have kids in school right now, and they go through an awful lot of they go through a lot of painstaking processes to try to get our kids to understand inclusion, right, and tolerance. But
Hmm.
they don't teach accountability as much. They don't teach, hey, my judgment is not necessarily the end all be all. Go for it. I know you got something to say.
Oh, yeah. No, no. I'm going to go one step further than where you're at right now, and it's because, all right. So, follow me through this, Trinity. Think about what some of the number one TV shows are on right now, right? And think about how many times you've heard a younger person say the following. When you say, yeah, so what do you want to be? What are you interested in? How many people have you heard say, you know, forensic psychology or forensics sounds really cool? Like I watch a lot of murder mystery shows. I watch a lot of
Right.
NCIS or all those cop shows, right? That
Sure.
profile. The whole show is about profiling what the criminal must be like. The
Sure.
whole show.
Sure.
The whole show is about being at a murder scene or a scene of a crime and profiling what the individual must be like who did it. Now,
Right.
these are the top shows. Like if you look at what the top shows are on TV, that's what it is. But the odd thing is that we're being told as a society we should never practice profiling. We should never practice any of the things that we're actually very interested in. Apparently, we're all very interested in profiling. And I think that we could actually, instead of ignoring and looking at profiling as being bad, we should all just get better at it. Maybe we're just not that good at it. And if we actually studied it and we actually taught it to our children really young, they wouldn't be racist. They wouldn't be bad, horrible people. Maybe they would just be really gifted profilers that might keep themselves out of problems. Because I think that should be a good thing, right?
You know who's really good at it though? Who's really good at profiling?
Oh.
Facebook, Google, Amazon. They are amazing at it, right? They know exactly. That's the thing, right? If we're going to go down this rabbit hole, let's go ahead and go down it. And that is
The algorithms.
profiling is a very real thing. And whether you realize it or not, you fit into a box somewhere. Somebody somewhere out there has got a box, and you're in it. And they know exactly what to market to you. They know exactly what to bring up on your feed and your timeline and introduce to you and show you what you may or may not be interested in buying and purchasing next. And they're good at it. They're really good at it.
They make millions from it.
Billions. It's a billion-dollar industry, man. And so I think that, and that's all a judgment, right?
Right.
We're so predictable that a computer algorithm can look at our past, search engines and things that we look up or whatever, and can predict pretty accurately what we're going to do. That's a judgment. And that's the problem, is it goes against this idea, and you and I run into this a lot with what we do and how we go about it. Everybody thinks that they're this individual snowflake, right? The snow. I don't mean snowflake in the liberal term. I mean how each snowflake is completely different. We all think that we're these.
You offended all of them.
Yeah,
it's
right.
all right. Hey, self-soothe.
Yeah,
I like that.
But we all like to
rock
think
if you have to. Rock.
Yeah, uh, they all like to walk around thinking that they're so unlike everything else, and they're so unique, like this special little snowflake falling to the earth that will never be duplicated. And it's just not true. There's certain things about us that are unique to us, but the overwhelming, what was it? There was like 7 personalities in the world or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, but we
yeah.
all like to think that there's a
There
billion.
is.
No, there's not. The funny part is my daughter, my 16-year-old. I don't remember the exact thing that took place. I just remember the
Mhm.
sentiment that I walked away with, and I thought it was hilarious. So we got in the car. It was like a week or two ago. We got in the car. We're driving. She's like, you know what? Just blew me away. That really like, wow. I didn't understand. I didn't expect. But she was so like this epiphany hit, and it was like this most amazing awakening that she's had in her life. And I was like, holy cow! Well, I can't
Well,
wait to hear what this is. Right? So we're
yeah, me
driving, and
neither.
yeah, and she tells me she realized that there's other people like her. I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah,
Huh?
because there were certain things that she thought or were feeling about or whatever that she seriously thought that she was the only one in the world, and she figured this out and she's got it all. And then she found out as she now she's getting older, she's got a job,
Yeah,
she's starting to drive, so she's meeting other
yeah.
people outside of her bubble, and she's starting to
Huh?
realize like, hey, other people think the same thing that I think. And she was blown away by that. Now, I mean, for her, obviously, that was a major moment. For me, I was just like, really? Like, you, okay. Like,
Yeah,
sometimes I
but don't you
forget
remember
she's
that
16.
moment?
Not really. But I
You
mean,
don't remember the moment where you knew there was a Trinity Phillips in every friend group?
no, I don't remember that. Um, I kind of always figured that, right? Like I was always really into that type of stuff, anyways, like personality and brain. So I kind of knew from an early age that I wasn't as unique as I once thought I was, I guess. Um,
Mm.
but it was just interesting to me at 16 that she's now learning that. Like in society, we just don't, because we do, right? We promote this idea that we're so unique and there's nobody like us and we're special.
Right.
And we are special in who we are, but we're not special in the sense of that there's only one of us, right? There's only one you intellectually, but your behaviors, your likes, your dislikes, your thought process, like, okay, there in my own world, I've had those examples where I've come up or I've looked at the things around me and I've thought of a theory or a philosophical kind of concept, only to later on find out that that was already done by Nietzsche or whoever hundreds of years ago. That they already kind of put that in a book somewhere. I never read the book. I just came to that conclusion based upon my own
Yeah,
observations, just to
I've done
realize like,
that.
oh, and that is a little humbling moment, I guess, if that's what we want to go for. Because I'm thinking I'm so brilliant that I figured this out, and then all of a sudden I find out no, they figured that out like
Yeah,
1,000 years ago. It's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, well,
yeah.
never mind. Um, but that's the point. It's like there's only but so much originality, right? Like it's just a law of numbers.
It's all been written. It's all been said. Is one of
Yeah,
my favorite things to say.
it has.
It's all been written and it's all been said.
And so I think when it comes down to judgment, we kind of have to get off this idea that whatever we judge it as is the end all be all. Like your
Mm.
answer is apparently the only right answer or the only one, and that's what I think is getting us into trouble these days, both in the world at large and probably in our own personal, like our own microcosm, right? And that
Right.
is on a grander scale, all this sensitivity that we're seeing and all these accusations going back and forth. That's because somebody's deeming something as their interpretation is the only interpretation, and anything other than that is just wrong, and so they're mudslinging. But even in our own homes, right? How many times those of us with spouses, like that happens to me all the time with my wife, man. It happened to you and me together with my wife. You got a taste of it from her. Remember when we were doing the other stuff, the video stuff. We were driving, and we met up with this kid that we saw, and he acted kind of strange. That we were like, that's kind of weird. You and I both, man, we were sold. That was it. You couldn't tell us anything from our perspective. We knew exactly what that scenario was. We worked up the narrative. We had it all figured out. And then in a 30-second conversation with my wife, she threw in a little, well, it could be
Yeah,
this, and it was
yeah,
completely plausible, made total
yeah,
sense, and she was probably right. But that's an example of how our judgment, and we were willing to proceed with that judgment. We were willing to like continue forward. Yep, that's it. That's what it was. Until
yeah.
she dropped that little nugget, and think that you and I are self-aware enough to realize, like, oh well, yeah, maybe our own biases were kind of like maybe this is what it is. I don't know. I'm still not convinced that we were wrong, but I'm not convinced we were right either. And I think we need
Exactly.
more of that humility in life, and that's the problem is we don't approach situations with humility. We approach a situation and we judge it either positive or negative based upon our own biases, our own experiences, our own expectations, and then we expect everybody else to kind of follow suit. And that's where I think problems are created. We have to
Right.
understand that other perspectives are out there, and that doesn't mean that theirs is inherently wrong or right, or ours is inherently wrong or right. It's just that's where the compromise. That's where the adult higher level thinking comes into play, right? That's where we learn to discuss things and learn about one another and compromise and then we together come to a solution that works for everybody. That's what I think we
Yeah.
need more of.
I think it throws people off too. I mean, like going into that scenario, like you said, like a lot of times I'll say something and I feel pretty certain about it, Trinity. I feel like
Sure.
100% on it. But who gets me probably the best is my oldest daughter, Dalia. She has this very, very, very good eye, very good observation skills. I mean, her observation skills are they will be much better than mine. They're purer than mine. Mine came from, I used mine incorrectly a lot of ways, and now I use them correctly. But hers are very pure without a lot of the BS, right? And
Right.
so when she does it, and I'll say something, I think I'm right, and then she'll point something out. I think it trips her out when I go, "Oh, you're right. Oh, that was pretty good." Like I'll let her know
Right.
that, yeah, you figured that out. You got to get. I think I could see the smile on her face, like, wow, he
Right.
gave me a great compliment. But at the same time, it's like, is he serious or is he being sarcastic? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I guess my point is that, like, you and I, the reason we like doing our shows and even including the political show, the We the Middle show, is because we don't mind being wrong. We don't mind,
Yeah.
feeling secure in our thought process, but also inviting judgment and inviting people to speak otherwise, not to argue with them, but to better understand and maybe get somewhere positive, right?
Sure.
And so I think that's why you and I get along real well, or that's one of the reasons, is that both of us are malleable. We're strong-minded. Yeah, we're type A personalities, partly, but we're also very compassionate and we have great listening power. And so we both will move with the movement. Like if there's a rock here, we'll go around it. If it's
Yeah.
an easier path, we'll just take it around. We both are
Of
like
course.
water.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee.
I try to
And
be.
and by the way, both of us really knew about the Bruce Lee and respected it and used that in our teachings before we knew that each other used it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
makes sense why we both do that, because we actually both believe that.
Yeah. And I think if more people approach that, we'd be better
Mhm.
off, man. Especially
Yeah.
in the realm of judgment, because judgment is neither good nor bad. It's how we use it and how we arrive to that, right? Like judgment can be a wonderful thing, man. Like I said, you
It's
and I
also
both have.
temporary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Um,
has its time, because you may judge something one way one day, Trinity, and
of
how often
course.
did you change your judgment based on who you are the next day?
All the time. I mean, at one point, I judged marriage as absolutely horrible. And I didn't want kids.
Right.
Now I'm married with 4 kids, and I love it. Right?
You'll get there
Uh,
again. You'll get there again. No, I was kidding.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was kidding.
Um, but that's what I mean, though. Right? Like,
Yeah.
we have to, as a society, and we can't do the society as a whole. We can do individually, right? You
Yeah.
can't control society. So if you're listening to this, you can't work on your neighbor. You can't be like, oh, see, my neighbor really needs to hear it. No, 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 no. You need to hear this show. And that's how you show others. It's not by telling them, by showing them, right? There's a thing in the Buddhist philosophy, right? It's called equanimity. Equanimity means you got to just allow them to be on the path that they're on. The only way you can help them with their suffering is by not adding to the suffering and just to give them love and compassion. Um, and so if you're trying to change somebody, the person you need to change is yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong necessarily, but that means that's the only person you can change. You change your perspective to it, you change your reaction to it. If there's that person who's just constantly obstinate in their approach and they're just kind of a bully or they're mean or whatever it is, and you're like, they need to change, you coming at them to tell them they need to change is just reaffirming their own biases and saying that you're an asshole of some sort. Instead, if you approach them with love and compassion, allow them to be where they're at, it's very hard for that person to maintain this level of anger with you when you're just a great human being towards them. At some point, they're going to have to stop inside and say, whoa, like, dang, man, no matter how rude I am, this dude's just always nice. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It sounds silly to say that, but I promise you it's true, right? Because I used to be that dude who was just angry at the world. And it was always, I remember this one guy I used to work with. I won't say his name. I used to work with him, and I don't know if you remember a commercial. I think it was a Budweiser commercial where the guy would go into the bar, and the people at the bar looked at him and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And everybody says, "How you doing?" And our typical response, "I'm good, thanks." No, this guy says, "How you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm doing fine. I just flew in yesterday. It's a mighty nice airport y'all got here. Everybody's been real nice." And he just went through this whole thing, right? And
Yeah.
they made him out to be kind of silly, but like I knew somebody like that, and it was frustrating sometimes because he would go on, but you could not be angry at him because he was just such a nice, genuine human being that no matter what the situation, you just like you gotta love that dude. He's just that's who he is, and it was so genuine, it was so nice, and nobody in that place hated that guy at all. Nobody had a bone to pick with him in any way, shape, or form,
Nice.
and that's an example of how you can alter your interaction with other people, not by changing them, but by changing yourself and changing how you approach the situation. No matter how angry and bitter that person might be, kill them with kindness is a legit thing. And I think that starts with our judgment. We can't judge a situation as either positive or negative and roll with it as if that's the only truth that's out there. That's where our problem lies, man.
What was the movie where Jack Nicholson said you can't handle the truth?
A few good men, I believe. I
Was it?
believe. I don't know.
That's a fair line right there, man. That line is
Yeah, we want the truth.
powerful.
You can't handle the
We,
truth.
yeah, we can, and we can't.
No, we can't.
And this is the weird thing because you'll hear people say, "You say, look, we're big boys and girls. You know, you could tell us the truth. Government should tell us the truth, and blah blah blah." No, no, they
We
really
would lose
shouldn't
our minds, dude.
because I think we've already proven. As a matter of fact, anytime anyone looks at you and says that the government should tell us the truth because we're big boys and girls, we can handle the truth. I want you to remember when we all went ape shit and took all the toilet paper from the store because
Yeah,
it wasn't that long ago.
it was about a
So
year.
we can't and we clearly can't handle truth. We go into panic mode, fear mode, and
Yeah.
everybody Mad Maxed it up and went to their go bags. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
this is my shit. You know what I mean? Like you go get yours, and we're gonna do this over here. So I don't think that not only can we not handle our truth, but we can't even handle other people's truth either. And that's
No.
outside of you. You should be able to at least handle other people's truth easier than yours. I can see why it's hard to handle your own because it's vulnerable, right? But you can't even handle other people's truth. And what instead you want to believe whatever story you have created about everybody, and you want to believe
Yeah.
that that is fact. So no matter what comes out of the person's mouth, you've already identified who they are, what they're like, and what you're going to choose as valid or invalid, and then that's it. And then once you do that, you really kind of shrink your world down. And maybe you need to shrink your world down. Maybe the world is too complex for you. Maybe it's too heavy for you. It's too heavy for most people, to be honest with you. And it is a lot more comfortable just focusing on the little circle around you. But then to lose so much, I don't know, positive influence of others by putting out this shotgun of a judgment and then not allowing so many people around you, well, then where's your growth going to be? Where's your next phase of development going to come from? Because there's no possible way, if you're old enough, that you can look back on your life and says, from day one, I was exactly the way I am right now. I mean, that's not reality, man.
No.
I'm a different person all the time, and I'm not talking about the little things that I'm still the way. Like, look, like we said, I still do this. Everybody that knew me from elementary school on up knows that Tabasco sauce and Lay's potato chips are my
They
thing,
had
right?
those back then.
Yeah, we didn't use bottles back then, But the point is, there's some things that are similar that you're still like, but there's so much about you that's different, especially the way you interact with the world. Like the amount of tact you have, the amount of kindness you have, the compassion you have, your ability to navigate situations. You've grown so much, and then you give it all back someday, and then you get so concrete and hard-headed. Look, concrete is not something you should ever want to be, right?
No.
Because let's say I throw this pen in concrete and it hardens. Then what happens? It's in there. I can't get it out. I got to chip it out. Well, that's how some of you are with certain ideologies that you have. You embedded it in concrete, and then now it's there. And now in order to get it out, you got to chip away at it, but you're not even willing to chip away at it. Instead, you look at it as fact and go, that's just part of the concrete. No, you put that shit in there. That's not part of the concrete. You put that pen in there, and you can take the pen out, but it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some effort on your part to crumble up the concrete, try to get it back to liquid, and then, let's solidify. Let's add some more product to it and then make it hard again. But these are the kinds of things that in our life that we don't like to do. We like to look at things very much at face value. We like to believe that we know the truth and that what we're thinking is the right way to think. and I get it. It's comfortable, but it's not always a positive thing, like we see right now. And I think that's why so many people are arguing with people that they loved last year. You know, there's a lot of people that cared about somebody very deeply just last year, and then this year they don't even communicate. They can't even stand the sight of them or even the thought of them. It's, you know, it's detestable.
Well, and the other caveat to all this that we've been talking about, there's another premise that we operate on sometimes that I'm not sure is the healthiest, and that is every voice needs to be counted, every voice needs to be heard, right? In
Yeah.
certain instances, I agree with that 100%, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a unilateral thing, right? That's not, very. It doesn't translate into every aspect of our lives. And what I mean by that is sometimes less is more. Sometimes we don't need to hear your judgment. We all have it, absolutely. But sometimes people just don't need to hear it. Sometimes it's best to just keep it to yourself. There's no rule book out there that says every thought that enters your head needs to come out of your mouth to whomever it is that you're around,
All
right?
right, all right, Trini. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Our situation is slightly different in the sense of that's what we do. We have a show for it, and we get paid to kind of give our perspectives and opinions. But even then, I don't carry this into every area of my life. There's times where my kids, or even my wife for that matter, more times with my wife, because I've learned with her sometimes less is more, right? If I don't want to be in trouble, maybe I keep that comment to myself. And maybe I feel right and justified, but it doesn't matter. It's her life. She doesn't want to hear it, or she's a. I've had to learn to just okay. And same with her. There's been plenty of things about me that are like my little sensitive areas or something, and she'll notice something, and maybe she wants to say something, but she's realized that it's better for her if she doesn't. That we kind of have to learn. And I don't mean in a fear-based situation where we're in right now, where we all have opinions on things, but nobody feels comfortable to put that opinion out there for fear of retribution. I'm talking about the judgment stuff. I'm talking about calling something good or bad, or criticizing, whatever. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't have to actually be heard on this particular subject. If you think I'll give you an example, a personal example, so that way I don't call anybody out. Uh, I can't tell you. So in my life, ever since I was a kid, and my mom is watching this, I believe, so she can attest to this.
Oh, good. Let's use
I,
her.
I've been fascinated with tattoos my entire life. Like even when I was a little kid, I could not wait until I got old enough to get one. Like I was dreaming about what kind of tattoo I wanted since I was a little boy. And
What
so
was
when I
it, like
got
7 that you got your first one? Like 7?
no, my mom made me pay for all mine, so I didn't get mine until I think it was 21 when I got my first one. I'm a large dude, man, so they're expensive to cover this much skin. Um, because I'm not gonna get that little tiny one, you know.
They're called.
Uh,
I think they're called murals.
yeah, right. No,
Mural.
man, my samurai scene is actually when he put it out on paper, it was a back piece for somebody. But anyways, uh, uh, so I knew that from a little kid, I just wanted tattoos. I knew when I got old enough that it was going to happen. It wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when and what am I going to get. And I had so many ideas and everything else. So I finally started that process of getting tattoos for myself. I liked them. I liked what they represented. I liked the image that they put out. I liked everything about them. I want them. I didn't even mind sitting for the pain because for me that was like a badge of honor. I sat through the
Right.
pain. I earned it, kind of a thing, right? And so it was my yeah. My mom says absolutely until you can pay for them. So my point is, that was a personal decision for me. I got it. I wanted it. But there were many times after I started getting the tattoos, especially the visible ones, that everybody around me felt the need to come and give me their opinion, their critique, whether they liked the tattoos, whether they didn't. If they, some people would come up to me and tell me I'm going to hell and I'm ruining my body. Other people would say, yeah, I had that quite a bit actually. Personal note for people who know me, that's what these ones are for. Um, but I would get, and when I say a lot, I can't stress this enough. Like at least 4 or 5 times a day when I'm out in Publix, people would come and say to me, "Hey, oh, I don't like those." And even today, I get more so the positive stuff, less so the negative. Just over the weekend, I went somewhere with my wife, and I walked in, and the only thing that the person said to me was, "Oh, I like your tattoos." Didn't say hi, didn't greet me, just I like your tattoos. Okay, thank you. Um, but my point is, I didn't really need to hear their opinion on if I'm going to hell or not, or if I've ruined my body, or like I have one of Pan on my leg, right, which to the untrained eye looks like the devil, but it's really not. It's Pan from Greek mythology. But they were like, "Well, I don't like that devil on your leg." I was like, "Well, I don't really give a shit what you like. Like, it's not your body." So that's an
How do you like it
example.
across your face?
Yeah, that's an example though of their judgment that they have that doesn't need to be shared. And
Yeah.
I think that's a skill set that we all have to get better at, is learning when certain things need to be shared and when certain things you just need to shut up and keep it to yourself. And
Yeah.
real quick before you comment on that, Marissa, welcome to the show. She said she likes the shirt. Thank you. I wore it because my daughter made it for me. It was a tie dye. She's into this whole tie dye thing, so I talked about it at
Maybe
the top. So
maybe your daughter can make one for Marissa.
maybe, absolutely, I'm sure she would love that.
That'd be very
Anyway,
cool.
so go for it. I was saying the last thing I left off was just saying that sometimes your judgment, should be kept to yourself and not put
Yeah,
out there.
it really should. There's a lot of people that think that everything they have to say is important. And it might be to you. Say it to yourself. I mean, that's why I laugh to myself so often. That's why I just sit there and I'll be sitting there silent faced and I'll just start laughing, because I said something to myself. I mean, it doesn't always come out. I know it appears that I always say everything that comes in my mind, and I have less of a filter than most. I get it, so it's kind of ironic that I say this, but I still believe it. That not everything I think can be said or should be said. If I said everything that I thought, that would be very dangerous to my
Yeah,
lifestyle.
same here.
Now, but that's normal, right? That's not unique. That's all of you. All of you have some thoughts, and you should never judge other people for all the thoughts they may have. Now, I will judge you, and you do deserve judgment if you say it. So don't always say it, because
Yeah,
then they can't judge you on it. If you just think it, nobody can say anything to you.
yeah,
You just think it and laugh to yourself. If you think somebody's kooky or whatever, just laugh to yourself. Um, in line of that also, though, Trinity, I think that some people feel like uh, it's their duty to say something, like as
yeah,
if they need to teach you. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Well, you're out of school. You're not in school. You're not paying for another semester of college. You're out. So Trinity doesn't need your education. Trinity doesn't need to know that, wow, how his tattoos make you feel, unless you're in that conversation with him and you want to say, wow, you got some really nice ink. That's different, right? But if you
Sure.
want to say something negative and judgment on, just take into account how big he is. Take into account that he might not be doing very well that day. You want to judge the scene properly, right? You want to,
Yeah,
look at the murder scene before it's a murder scene, and then
yeah.
ask
Well,
yourself.
and I honestly had that. Like, there was plenty of times where I was shocked at times. And the people who did it, oftentimes I was shocked about where it was coming from. Like, it
Yeah,
was coming from individuals that I thought to myself, you've never had to worry about an ass whooping in your life, and it shows. You know what I mean? Like, you've gone through your whole life and you've never had to confront the idea that something comes out of my mouth might get me accosted at the moment.
I
And
got one.
you got one?
You know, yeah, I do. That happened the other day at the dog park, actually. So I'm at the dog park, right? And this real cool lady, I think she was cool. She was clearly, not gender specific, and all that. She was really cool, so, and we were hanging out talking. Our dogs are getting along with each other. And I don't know how it came up, but we were kind of joking about how our looks may cause judgment, right? And I said, yeah, and I joked about how I just have just like an asshole face, like I look like that guy that's always a jerk on TV or on movies, right? Like I just have that face, the way my eyes look at people, the way I,
You have a resting bitch
like I
face?
have, yeah, I have to like work to look soft and loving because
Sure.
my natural face looks sarcastic and like an asshole, right? So I know that.
I
So,
relate.
so she laughed and she goes, yeah, yeah. Well, what's your nationality? And I said, Mexican, Puerto Rican. Yeah. She goes, yeah, that's why. And I was like,
What?
wait, what did that just mean? And
Wow.
so I laughed with her and I just went on. But in my head, I'm thinking, did this woman who looks like a man and is dressed like a man, like all boy, like young teenage boy clothes, when she's clearly like 60-year-old something female, but she's wearing like little boy clothes as if he's going to go play basketball with her high tops and everything. I said, I'm accepting you for who you are. I think it's cool. You look fun. You sound fun. You're very interesting to talk to. Did you seriously pass judgment on me because of the culture that I am? That's why I look like a jerk off.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really what you just said? I just let it go. But
Well,
the point
because
is that
you're all
that
the
was an
same, right?
example. Yeah, that was an example of me just. I didn't need to say it at that point in time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't difficult either. It's not like a judgment came in my head and I wanted to say something. I just like looked at like she clearly didn't really know how bad that really was. So I'm just going to
Sure.
let that go. Because sometimes ignorance is the real issue. It's not that, why should I say that she's biased or she's racist or all that? No, man, she's just ignorant. And there's a lot of people that are just ignorant. You call them racist, they're just ignorant. They just don't know that what they say is stupid and ridiculous. Some people just don't know.
And I think that right there, you just hit the nail right on the head. And that is what I mean by judgment. And that's, I think, is part of our crux here is we're judging somebody else based upon our lives.
Yeah.
You know, that whole idea that I used to, oh gosh, in group I would do this all the time. I would wait for somebody, and inevitably it would come up. They would say the phrase, and I'm sure you've done way more groups than I've ever done, and so I'm sure you've heard it millions of times as well. And that is, well, they should know better. That phrase, they should know better. I used to wait for that phrase to come out because I immediately attacked it. The second I heard that, I was like, hold up, why? Why should they know better? Like, because we all operate under the assumption that everybody had the same upbringing that we had. Everybody had the
Right.
same experiences that we had. And
Right.
what they don't realize is they don't, right? Like, if you, here's an example. Like, here's an example that I can say right now that most people watching this probably can't relate to. And almost
Yeah.
nobody I meet today can relate
Right.
to. I was like
Right.
5 years old before I saw my first black person.
Wow.
Yeah. We were living up in Montana. And up there, back in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of them hanging around up there. We got on
Not
a
a whole lot
plane.
of anybody in
Yeah.
Montana.
We flew down to Orlando. We were in the airport, and my mom was watching. She can attest to this. I was like 5 years old, I think, 5 or 6. Never saw a black person. We're walking through the to the airport. I looked over and I saw a black person. I lost my shit, man. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. I looked over like, what is that? And I think I said something to mom that was like, is he burnt or something like that? As I think what I asked my mom. And my mom, of course, got embarrassed as hell. I was like, shut up. Like, get over here. But that's an example, right? And so, like, for me, it was happenstance. And so, if in today's world, if that were to take place, my mom would be called this horrible racist parent. And I'd be this horrible bigoted kid, and all you're raising trash and all this other stuff. No, I didn't see. They just weren't around. Um, and so that's the problem with judgment is when you're going to judge that person thinking that they should know better or this, that, and the other, or anything other than pure ignorance, right? Or even getting mad at them for ignorance. You yourself are ignorant in many different things in the world, so you can't get mad at somebody else for being ignorant unless you're 100% knowledgeable on every subject known to mankind, which is literally impossible. And so that's the point. That's where the judgment it comes off in a negative way, and that's where we got to refrain from doing. Stop judging other people based upon your life and your experiences and what you went through, because I've been around both sides of the equation, right? I've been around a lot of people who make assumptions about white people when they say
Right.
something. Well, right now, the assumption of all white people are racist, which is complete bullshit, right? I know plenty of people who other people think that they're racist, but I've known them for so long that I know that they're just stupid. And they're I've known them for a long time, but I just know that they're just stupid. They
Yeah.
have no home training, they have no tact, they have no anything at all. They're just like a walking mistake, walking around, and they're just that person. And they equally offend everybody. You just so happen to catch this aspect of it, but I promise you that person's walking around offending the other 9 groups as well. Like I just know that person well enough to know. But I've also been around the other side of that too, where people who I know black people who like I would show up to the basketball court and be like, oh white boy this, oh he can't. So I've seen both sides of it, and most very rarely I'll say, and in today's world I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a judgment on this, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to say the majority of this stuff that we're considering racist in today's world, or sexist, or ageist, or xenophobic, or just pick one. I'm going to say a high number. I'm going to say at least 80% of it is ignorance. At least. I don't think the majority of it is coming from malintent. I don't think it's malicious. I don't think there's pure hatred. I think it's they have no clue and they opened their mouth and said something that they did not know how it was going to be received by everybody else around us. And then certain individuals who were looking for a fight heard it and ran with it, not knowing that that individual that they just judged has a heart of gold, but just had no clue what they said was so horrible.
Right. And that's the thing too, man. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be being judged by one part of who they are.
Yeah,
And some people just say really dumb shit. And so,
yeah.
but if you would judge them as a whole from the way they communicate or how they view a certain topic, you might be missing out on somebody that could be at least interesting in your life for a reason or another. And
And
I
who
don't
doesn't say
know.
stupid shit sometimes?
I
Who
mean,
doesn't
we all
say
do.
stupid
We all
shit?
do.
Everybody
We
does.
all do, and some of you aren't getting confronted on it because of other reasons. It has nothing to do like Trinity. I'm sure there's a lot of people that that Trinity frustrates or makes upset, but they're not going to say anything to him. You know, they're just going to keep their mouth shut and move along.
Maybe.
But you know what's weird is not maybe it's going to happen, right? but you know what? When you said that about meeting your first black person for the first time, I remember going to the first white person's house, I should say, not White House.
So you were in the White House?
Yeah, it was nothing like that. And I remember specifically talking to my dad, telling my dad my experience, because I was about 9 years old, and it was just so eye opening, because it was so much like Archie Bunker's house. And I had, I loved watching Archie Bunker because he would say the craziest things, and I just loved it. And I was like, Dad, that actually exists. You don't have to get, when she's thirsty or when she's hungry, you don't have to get it for her. Les just sits in his chair. He's got one of those chairs just like Archie Bunker has, and it's his chair. Nobody sits in it. He's got Jim Beam right here. He's got his pipe, and he's got his cherry tobacco, and he's got his cigarettes, Marlboro Red cigarettes. And to Dad, he just comes home and says, she takes his shoes off. He says, Sandy, get me this. Sandy, get me that. And she runs and she gets it. I said, it's awesome. And my dad's looking at me like, you're an idiot, because that's not the way it is. I go, no, Dad, that's how white people are, for real. I just was in that house. I saw
You haven't met my wife, apparently.
Yeah. So my point is that we all have our experiences, right? Now,
Yeah.
If we take those experiences and blow them up and make everybody that way, then you blind yourself. Then you're not being realistic. The point is that your experiences are your experiences. They don't mean it's everybody. Some stereotypes are going to be real, and some stereotypes are not going to be real. I'm going to fit some of the stereotypes that you may have of people that look and sound like me, and I'm not going to meet all the stereotypes that you may have about people that look and sound like me. But that's part of the like what Trinity was saying, that we're all a lot more alike than we're separate. We really are. There's really very, very few differences that we can pick out. Every friend group has the exact same people. I can always find the friend in every friend group that I could pay $1 to eat a bug. In every friend group I ever had in my life, I always had a friend I could pay $1 to eat a bug. That just always existed. And I moved a lot. I went to a lot of different cities and towns. But I always had that friend. I always had that one friend who was always going to get a fight. No matter where we went, he's going to fight. So just get ready, because that kid is always going to get aggressive and always going to get a fight. You always have that one friend that all the girls are going to like. All the girls are going to like him. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter if he's a good guy, bad guy. He could be a rapist. They, for some reason, don't give a damn. They like that kid, regardless of how horrible of an individual he just may be. You're always going to have that friend that your girlfriend is not going to like. And you got to say, that's just the way he is. You're always going to say, that's just the way it is. It's nothing. But like, people just don't like him. You like him, but for some reason, nobody else does. We all have those friends. And if you look at if you're listening to me and you go, I don't have that kind of friend, then you're probably that one. You're probably that friend. So we have, all friend groups have that, and that's what makes it really unique and cool when you watch these movies where they have like a friend group and they have one of all types, and you go like, you can kind of relate. I mean, maybe not 100%, but kind of relate. Well, that's where some of your judgment comes from. Some of your judgment comes off from your lived experience. Some of your judgment comes from watched experience, and some of your judgment comes just from some vibe and energy. And you got to learn to trust a lot of these instincts. These are all part of your instincts. These are all part of your survival skills. And if you don't work on them and you don't keep them finely tuned for protection purposes, not for evil march, Auschwitz, Nazi, separatism bullshit. I'm talking about using them just to be able to move along in this world as comfortably as you can, because we all got a short time here. We're supposed to enjoy our experiences while we're here, grow and build your family, build a good name, build a legacy, and move the hell on. So that's why I like what you're talking about today, Trinity, about, sometimes judgment is a good thing, and we need to understand when it's a good thing, and it's okay, because that's part of your instincts. That's part of what's going to help you navigate the rest of the world. I mean, why experience it if you can't use it to your advantage? But I think consequently also, some people take their negative experiences and then blanket that for the rest of their life. Like, oh yeah, like when you talk about police officers, for instance, that's an easy one, because many of us, I should say, have had bad experiences with law enforcement. But you know what? I've had some really good experiences with law enforcement too. And so I choose to focus on those today, because I'm a lot closer to being the kind of guy that deserves the goodness than the kind of guy that was asking for all the bad shit that I was getting. I'll even give an example. I remember it was early on in my career. I was in my early 20s. Remember, The Couch Live has been on the air for 21 years. So This is here in Central Florida. It's probably in the first 4 to 5 years of my show. It was on TV at the time. I have a flat tire, Trinity. I pull over, and I'm looking at the back of my car, and I'm like, Jesus, man, I got golf clubs in there. I got all kinds of stuff. I got to take all this shit out to get to the freaking tire, right?
Right.
So a cop pulls over, and my instinct is like, oh, what? Come on, man, really? You know? He happened to be a lieutenant. He goes, can I help you? I said, I just got a flat tire. He goes, yeah, let me help you. He helps me get all the stuff out of the car. He changes my freaking tire. While he's changing my tire, he goes, you're that guy on that show, right? The doctor, dope, something like that. And I was like, yeah, the dope diet. He goes, yeah, it's good. It's a good show. Yeah, I know Tinker, your co-host. I go, oh, yeah. Yeah, he goes, good people. Keep doing the good work, man. And he fixes the tire. I said, man, do you guys always do this? This is pretty cool. He goes, actually, no. He goes, actually, we don't allow our officers to do that. And we used to, but then, they can get hurt or liability reasons, so we don't let them do it. He goes, but, I'm a lieutenant. I make an exception. Have a good day. And he left. And I'm like thinking, that's pretty cool. I just had a lieutenant officer change my tire. And I was like 23, 24 years old. That was a great experience. I'll forever hold on to that experience over the experience of when they put me in the hot car, put me in the desert, got outside the car, let me sit there and sweat for a while, push me around, call me, Billy the Kid, you think you're tough, and just let me, all that crap that happened. I'm going to forget all that. When I got called the N-word by a cop in Colorado, I'm gonna let all that go, because the law enforcement officers from like 20-something on, because I was living my life differently, they treated me differently. Today I called a chief from another county. He answered my phone call during a meeting. Why? Because apparently we have the kind of relationship where when I call him, he deems it important. That is me no different, other than me very different. And that's, I think, is what we have to look at. Yes, there's parts of you that are the same, but if you grow and allow yourself to mature and let shit go and move on, you're going to see that this world is a really cool, nice place.
Yeah, it's funny because that's sort of reminding me of my own similar story, and I'll end with that, and then we can do our wrap ups because we're running out of time.
You wrap up. I've already wrapped up. That was I spoke enough.
Well, so I'll finish this story, and then I'll do the wrap up. So I rode sport bikes for, gosh, man, I had nothing but a sport bike from like '99 to 2003. Was the only mode of transportation I had, and I was young. I did a lot of stupid stuff. I was that guy doing wheelies and tricks and racing and stuff. But here in locally in Florida, Central Florida, it was widely known that we did not get along with the cops. They didn't like us. We didn't like them. They would chase us down all the time. Anytime you would get stopped for a ticket, you're not just getting your punishment, but you're getting punishment from every other sport bike dude that pissed that cop off this week. He's taking it all out on you. It was always confrontational. It was a miserable time to be interacting with them. Like I'm talking, we would be in Bike Week for Daytona, and we're filling up our gas tanks, and the cop would come to us and basically yell at us and tell us to leave. We're not allowed to be there. When right across the street there was like 75 Harley Davidsons just all hanging out. But for some reason our 6 sport bikes filling up gas was a problem. So it was a love-hate relationship. And that's what I came to expect. It was just like, oh boy. Every time I saw a cop, it was like, whatever, man. Fast forward, we were up in Myrtle Beach for a bike week up there. And it was like probably 9 of us. We stopped on the side of the road real quick. One of my buddies had to do something with his bike. It was overheating or something. I don't remember what it was. But we were all kind of grouped together on the side of the road and helping him out. It was relatively unsafe. We were kind of impeding traffic, but not really. Like it was cumbersome to the cars that were going by. And as we're sitting there, I looked up and I see a cop rolling up on us, and he flipped his lights on. All of us collectively were like, "Oh God, here we go! Like, are we gonna get arrested now? Like, what's gonna happen? It's about to get really horrible." So one cop pulls up, another 2 right behind him. So there's 3 of them now coming up, and we're thinking, hey, this is it. It's about to get out of hand. I'll never forget it. The dude looks at us and says, "Hey, everybody okay over here? Y'all need something?" And we're like, "No, man, it's just his bike was overheating." So he was like, "Okay, we all be safe," and he left. We all just looked at each other like, "What the?" I got goosebumps now. We're all like, "What the hell just happened?" And we totally judged that situation very, very wrong, right? And so, as if I didn't already have enough being from an LEO family and having so many friends and relatives around there, that was yet one more example of your judgments could be wrong. Like we judged them already pulling up, like here we go, this is gonna be trouble, and it wasn't. So in essence, we were kind of already guilty of what was being done to us here in Orlando, right? Like the cop will see us here in Orlando, not all of them, but the ones we experienced would see us and think, oh, there's troublemakers, let's go harass them. Well, we were thinking, oh, here comes troublemaker getting ready to harass us, and we were totally wrong, right? So that's an example of judgment, man. It goes both ways, good and bad. So, anyways, that was my story. When you were talking about yours, that reminded me of that one to the T almost, because I was shocked, just like you were, that they were so like gracious and helpful and were just like kind. I was like, I did not see that coming at all. Anyways, that's all we got for right now. Let me go ahead and pull up my 3 tips. Thank you everybody for watching and tuning in. For those of you watching live on Facebook.com/WPSN99, we appreciate you. For those of you listening to this later via podcast or something, we also appreciate you. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Believe it or not, it does help with the algorithms and gets our voices heard. If you want to follow us on social media, he is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy. If you or somebody you know is struggling with the disease of addiction, you can always reach out to us at nowmattersmore.org. That's nowmattersmore.org, or you can call 833-NOW-MATTERS. That's 833-NOW-MATTERS, and we will help you any way we can with the disease of addiction. So let me go ahead and do a wrap-up. This is the time where I give you guys some tips, some actionable tips, and kind of wrap everything up. So first tip I got is keep in mind, man, judgment is a thing, but not all judgment's bad. You know, we for whatever reason, it's like when you hear hooves, you think horses, not zebras. When we hear judgment, we automatically think negative, we think bad, but not all judgment's bad. Some judgment is good. Once again, if you have a spouse in your life, if you have an animal in your life, wherever you live, you deemed all those things, you judge them as worthy to be in your life, or worthy to live there, or worthy to have friendships, whatever it might be. So judgment is not inherently a negative thing. It could be either or. Which leads me to my second tip, and the second tip is your intent matters. You know, where you're coming from with that judgment. Are you coming from a place of anger, of malice, of bad intent? Or are you coming from a place of love and compassion and generosity, kindness? Like, your intent does matter in how you judge and the way it comes off and how you impact those around you. And then lastly, the final one, and to me I think this is probably one of the most important ones, is you got to learn when to shut up. And I put that bluntly for a reason, because sometimes we overestimate the need to get our judgment out. Right? If you have a particular judgment, you got to ask yourself, first of all, is this useful? Is it truthful? And the truthful part, that has to do with your perception and everybody else's perception as well. That's what truth is. But the other key component to that is it useful? Meaning the judgment that you're about to put out there in the world, is it useful? Is it going to help the situation? Is it going to help you? Is it going to help them? Is it going to solve a problem? Or is it just you getting your thoughts out because you want to be heard? And I think that is a key component to the judgment. I think the world itself, we all need to look at judgment differently. We all need to express it differently. And we need to come together for essentially a compromise so we can all kind of do our thing. Because we're all trying to get there to the end. We're all doing our best, and we're all failing miserably. So it's time to help each other out and be a little bit more skillful. So anyways, that's all I got. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.